She lay at his feet in the dark. One wrong word and she would be ruined. The threshing floor was no place for a woman alone, but she had nothing left to lose. The story of Ruth begins long before that night. It begins with hunger, with a family that ran, and it ends with a child in Bethlehem and a name that would outlast kingdoms. What happens in between is why the story has never been forgotten. A famine struck the land of Judah. The fields of Bethlehem went dry. In a world where hunger meant death, a man named Elimelech made a choice. He would not wait for the soil to yield again. He took his wife Naomi and their 2 sons and crossed into Moab. The Moabites were not kin. Generations of conflict and distrust lay between the 2 peoples. Scripture had named Moab an enemy. Borders had been closed. Blood had been spilled. But Moab had bread, and hunger does not wait for permission. So they stayed. The sons grew. They married Moabite women. Orpah and Ruth. For a time there was a household. Then Elimelech died. The 2 sons died. No reason is given. No plague, no war. The text only records the fact. 3 deaths. 3 women left. Naomi was left with no husband and no sons. Only 2 daughters-in-law in a land that was not hers. No property. No male protector. In the economy of the ancient Near East, she was destitute. At the time, no one could have known what one of those women would choose, or what that choice would cost, or that it would one day touch the line of kings. The story does not say how long the 3 women lived together in Moab after the men died. Only that Naomi rose to return when she heard the famine had ended. Naomi had heard that the famine in Judah had ended. She decided to return. On the road, she turned to Orpah and Ruth. She told them to go back to their mother's houses, to find new husbands, to save themselves. There was nothing she could give them. Orpah kissed her and left. It was the sensible choice. Ruth clung to her. Naomi said the words again, "Go, turn back. Your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after her." Ruth refused. The words that follow have echoed for millennia. Do not urge me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if even death parts me from you. Naomi said nothing more. She had run out of arguments. The 2 women set out for Bethlehem. The road back was long. They had no escort, no guarantee of welcome. They arrived at the beginning of the barley harvest. The fields were full. The town was stirring. People recognized Naomi. "Is this Naomi?" She told them not to call her Naomi, which means pleasant. "Call me Mara," she said. "Bitter, the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went away full. I come back empty." She had Ruth beside her. But in that culture, a widow with no son was empty. Ruth was a Moabite, a foreigner. In the eyes of many, she did not count. The law allowed gleaning. It did not require kindness. What happened next would depend on whether one man saw her differently, and what he would do when the moment came. Ruth asked Naomi for permission to go into the fields and glean. Gleaning was the right of the poor. The law allowed it. Workers cut the grain. What they dropped or left at the edges could be gathered by those who had nothing. It was dangerous for a woman alone. Foreign women were especially vulnerable. Ruth went anyway. She had to eat. Naomi had to eat. The text says she happened to come to the field of a man named Boaz, chance or providence. The narrative does not say. He was a relative of Elimelech, a man of standing. When Boaz arrived from the town, he noticed her. He asked his foreman who she was. The foreman said she was the Moabite who had come back with Naomi. She had asked to glean and had worked since morning. Boaz went to Ruth. He told her to stay in his field, to stay near his young women. He had ordered the men not to touch her. When she was thirsty, she could drink from what the workers drew. Ruth bowed. She asked why he had taken notice of her, a foreigner. Boaz said he had been told everything she had done for Naomi, how she had left her father and mother and her native land to come to a people she did not know. "May the Lord reward you," he said. "May you have a full reward under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Ruth ate with the workers. She gleaned until evening. When she beat out the grain, she had roughly an ephah of barley, enough to last. She brought it to Naomi and gave her what was left from her meal. Naomi saw the quantity. She asked where she had gleaned. Ruth said the man's name was Boaz. Naomi said, "He is our kinsman, one of our redeemers. Stay with his young women," she said. "Do not go to another field." So Ruth stayed in Boaz's field through the barley harvest and the wheat harvest. She lived with her mother-in-law, but that wasn't the end. Naomi had a plan. and the plan would put Ruth in the dark at a man's feet with everything at stake. Naomi told Ruth to wash, anoint herself, put on her best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor. Boaz would be winnowing barley that night. She was not to make herself known until he had finished eating and drinking and lain down. Then she was to go uncover his feet and lie down. He would tell her what to do. The act was a claim, a request for the protection and redemption that kinship law could provide. In the darkness at the edge of the grain pile, it could also be misread. Ruin was one interpretation away, so was salvation. Ruth said she would do all that Naomi had said. She went down to the threshing floor. She did exactly as her mother-in-law had commanded. At midnight, Boaz was startled. He turned and found a woman lying at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" She said, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are a redeemer." Boaz said, "May you be blessed. You have made this last kindness greater than the first. You have not gone after younger men. I will do for you all that you ask. All the assembly of my people know that you are a woman of worth, but there is a redeemer nearer than I. Lie down until the morning." She lay at his feet until dawn. Before it was light enough for her to be recognized, he gave her 6 measures of barley and told her not to go away empty to her mother-in-law. He had not yet promised anything. The nearer kinsman still had the first claim. The matter was not settled, but he had given her a sign, and he had called her a woman of worth. Ruth came to Naomi. She told her all that the man had done. Naomi said, "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest until he has settled it today." One more man stood in the way, a nearer kinsman. He had the right to redeem the land and the widow before Boaz could act, and that man would have to yield. Boaz would see to it, or the story would end there. Boaz went up to the gate of the town and sat down. The gate was where business was done, where disputes were settled. When the nearer kinsman passed by, Boaz called him. He took 10 elders of the city and had them sit, witnesses. The law required them. He said to the Redeemer, "Naomi has come back from Moab and is selling the parcel of land that belonged to our brother Elimelech." "I will redeem it," the man said. Boaz said, "On the day you acquire the field from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, to maintain the dead man's name on his inheritance." The Redeemer said, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own inheritance." If he took the land in Ruth, any son born would carry the dead man's name. His own estate would be divided. "Take my right of redemption yourself," he said. In that place it was custom to confirm such a transfer by one party giving the other his sandal, a gesture that sealed the matter. The man took off his sandal and gave it to Boaz. Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses today that I have acquired from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech and Chilion and Mahlon. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife, to maintain the dead man's name on his inheritance." The people at the gate said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built the house of Israel. May you have children in Ephrathah and a name in Bethlehem." So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife. He went into her. The Lord gave her conception and she bore a son. The women said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today. May his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age." They named the child Obed. He would be remembered. He became the father of Jesse, the father of David. The genealogy is spare. The weight of it is not. The line that led to the king of Israel ran through a Moabite widow who had lain at a man's feet in the dark and asked for the cloak of redemption. Naomi held the child. The women said, "A son has been born to Naomi." They laid him in her lap. The one who had come back empty was no longer empty. If you enjoyed this journey into one of the oldest stories of loyalty and redemption, like the video and subscribe for more weekly explorations of the text that shaped the world. The next one might be a story you think you know, until you hear it again.
The narrative as we have it is preserved in the Hebrew Bible. Scholars debate its date and whether it was written to affirm the lineage of David or to challenge narrow ideas of who belongs in the community of Israel. Some read it as a brief for inclusion. A foreign woman at the center. A Moabite in the line of the king. The text does not resolve the question. It only tells the story. What remains is the shape of the story itself. A woman who refused to leave. A woman who went into the field. A woman who lay at the feet of a redeemer and asked. And a line that did not end in the dust of Moab or the bitterness of Naomi, but in a child in Bethlehem. The story of Ruth has been told for thousands of years. It still turns on a single night, a single choice, and the words, "Where you go, I will go." The rest is genealogy: Obed, Jesse, David. The genealogy leads to a king, and the king's line runs back to a woman who lay at a man's feet in the dark and asked for the cloak of redemption. Goodbye.